My wife's best friend looked me in the eye and said, "You deserve more. Brace yourself. This isn't drama. It's the autopsy." I'm 50, been married for 3 years to my wife, Nicole, 48. We met later in life. Both of us had been through long stretches of singledom, me focusing on my small business, her recovering from what she called a string of disappointing relationships. She was smart, stylish, and had that magnetic personality that could work a room without trying. But marrying Nicole also meant marrying her social world, and at the center of that world was Serena. Serena is her best friend from college, the kind of woman people notice when she walks in, tall, striking, dresses like she's about to step into a photo shoot. She's been divorced for over a decade, never remarried, and has the kind of confidence that can feel intimidating. From the start, Serena didn't warm to me. She wasn't openly rude, more of that subtle, chilly disapproval. Jokes that had a sharp edge, compliments that didn't quite land. I figured she was just protective of Nicole, maybe worried I'd be another guy who let her down. But about a year ago, something shifted. The sarcastic remarks faded. She started smiling more, lingering in conversations, touching my arm when she laughed. It was enough to make me notice, and enough to make me uncomfortable. At first, I brushed it off. I was married to Nicole, and whatever Serena was doing, I wasn't going to read into it. But the change in her wasn't random, and I'd find out soon enough just how calculated it really was. It happened on a rainy Thursday evening. Nicole was working late at a gallery event downtown, so I was home flipping through channels when my phone buzzed. Serena. She never called me directly. "Hey," she said, her voice low, "You busy? I'm around the corner and need to talk. In person." 15 minutes later, she was on my couch, coat still damp, a glass of wine in her hand. She looked restless, almost nervous, which was a first for her. "I need to tell you something," she said, staring into the glass. "Nicole's not who you think she is." I felt my shoulders tense. Meaning she's been cheating on you," Serena said, her eyes finally meeting mine. "With a guy she met at a conference. And before that, there were others. I've kept my mouth shut for a long time, but I can't anymore." I sat there, stunned. "You expect me to just take your word for that?" She leaned forward, her perfume, expensive and warm, hitting me. "I've seen the texts, the hotel receipts. I was with her once when she snuck off to meet him. She laughed about how easy you were to fool." The words hit like a gut punch, but before I could even react, she reached out and put her hand on my knee. "You deserve someone better. Someone who appreciates you." I pulled back slightly, my mind scrambling. Was she telling me the truth, or using a half-truth to wedge herself between us? That night, I didn't sleep much. I kept replaying Nicole's recent late nights, the vague explanations, the way she brushed me off when I asked questions. And for the first time, I wondered if Serena's story, as twisted as it sounded, might not be entirely made up. The next few days, I played it cool. I didn't mention Serena's visit to Nicole. If Serena was telling the truth, I didn't want to tip Nicole off. If Serena was lying, I wanted to catch her in it. I started with the basics. Nicole's late nights at the gallery? I called the front desk one evening, asking for her under the pretense of needing to drop something off. The receptionist paused and said, "Oh, she left about 2 hours ago. Her weekend trip to Santa Fe for an art buyer's meet?" I checked our joint credit card statements online. Along with the art supply store and boutique charges, there was a dinner at a place called Ember, a high-end steakhouse. The bill was for 2 entrees, a bottle of wine, and dessert for 2. Nicole doesn't even eat steak. One night when she came home from seeing a client, she still had her coat on, but her lipstick was smudged, and her hair looked like it had been finger-combed in a rush. She gave me a quick kiss on the cheek and went straight upstairs to shower. I also noticed something new. Serena was suddenly texting me a lot. Little comments like, "Did Nicole get home on time?" Or, "I heard the gallery event was canceled. Did she tell you?" She never came right out and say, "See? I told you." But the subtext was there. It was starting to look less like Serena was fabricating a story and more like she was drip-feeding me breadcrumbs. Just enough truth to get me to follow her trail. And whether I liked it or not, I was following. It happened on a Sunday morning. One of those lazy starts where I make coffee and she scrolls through her phone in bed. Nicole was half asleep, hair a mess, phone tilted toward her chest. I set her mug on the nightstand, and as I did, the screen lit up. A text preview flashed. "Evan, Last night was incredible. Still can't believe we almost got caught in the elevator. My heart actually stuttered. Nicole must have seen my face because she snatched the phone like a kid caught with candy before dinner. That's just a joke, she said quickly, forcing a laugh. Inside thing with a friend from work. Inside thing? I asked, keeping my voice even. Yeah, like, we were talking about some rom-com we saw on the plane. Don't be weird. She got out of bed and headed for the shower like the conversation was over. When I checked the phone later, the message was gone. Whole thread wiped. That afternoon, while she was meeting a client, I sat in my truck in the parking lot across from the gallery. No client ever showed. But about 30 minutes in, I saw her step outside, scan the street, and walk quickly toward a black sedan. She opened the passenger door, and there he was, tall, maybe mid-40s, clean-cut in that corporate way. He leaned over and kissed her like they were picking up where last night left off. I stayed until the car pulled away. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so hard they cramped. Serena had been right, but I still didn't trust her motives. And now, I had two liars in my life and a decision to make about how to deal with both. I waited until that night. No point blowing up over text or in public. I wanted to look her in the eye. We were sitting in the kitchen, her sipping wine, me nursing a coffee I didn't really want. I slid my phone across the table. On the screen was a photo I'd snapped earlier of her leaning into that black sedan for the kiss. She froze, glass halfway to her mouth. Where did you get this? Same place you got the nerve to tell me you were meeting a client, I said. Her eyes narrowed. So you're spying on me now? That's pathetic, Dylan. I'm not spying, I said evenly. I just stopped believing your stories long enough to watch what you actually do. She gave a short laugh, sharp, humorless. You're blowing this out of proportion. Evan and I, we've been friends for years. We just got caught up in the moment. Caught up in the moment. I repeated, like the moment in the elevator? Or the moment at Ember? Or the dozens of moments you've lied about in the last year? Her jaw tightened. I don't know what Serena's been telling you. I cut her off. Funny you bring her up. She's been telling me a lot. Enough that I started checking. And you know what? She was right about you, Nicole. About everything. That got her to slam the wine glass down so hard it sloshed onto the table. Serena's obsessed with you, Dylan. She's been jealous of me since college. She's twisting this to get between us. Maybe she is, I said. But you handed her the ammo. You gave her the truth. For a moment, she just stared at me, breathing hard, like she was deciding whether to fight or fold. Then she stood up, muttered something about needing space, and went upstairs. I sat there alone, listening to her footsteps fade, and realized we'd just crossed the point of no return. That night, I didn't sleep. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying every moment of our marriage, every business trip, every girl's night, every time she rolled her eyes at me like I was some boring, clueless husband. The worst part wasn't even the image of her with Evan, though that was bad enough. It was the realization that Nicole had been so sure she could get away with it. She didn't even seem afraid of losing me. It was like she thought I'd grumble, forgive, and go back to playing the role of dependable provider while she lived whatever double life she wanted. And then there was Serena. Her voice was in my head too. I remembered the way she looked at me that night on the couch, the way her hand lingered on my knee. She'd been feeding me the truth, but she'd been feeding herself something too. The idea that she could replace Nicole. That if she broke us, she could slide into the vacancy. It was like finding out both the pilot and the co-pilot had been messing with the controls the whole flight. I called my sister, Emma, the next morning. She's blunt, no nonsense, and doesn't sugarcoat. When I told her, she sighed hard into the phone. Dylan, you've always been the guy who gives people the benefit of the doubt, she said. And look where it's got you. Married to a liar and chased by a snake. That stuck with me all day. I'd been insulted, humiliated, and treated like a fool in my own home. And I decided then, I wasn't just going to end this marriage. I was going to make sure Nicole felt the loss, and that Serena knew she was never going to win. I knew if I wanted to hit Nicole where it hurt, I couldn't just rely on my word against hers. She'd spin the story, play the victim, maybe even try to paint me as paranoid. No, I needed proof she couldn't talk her way out of. I started with the credit card statements. I'd looked before, but now I went back years. The pattern was obvious. Charges for dinners for two, boutique hotels, and wine bars, all lined up perfectly with her networking and client meetings. Then I checked our phone bill. Buried in there were hours-long calls to a number I didn't recognize, Evans. Sometimes late at night, sometimes early in the morning before she thought I'd be awake. The smoking gun came from her laptop. She left it open on the kitchen table one morning, and while I wasn't proud of it, I looked. In her downloads folder, there was an invoice for a weekend trip to Napa Valley, 1 king suite, 2 wine tastings for 2, and a couple's massage. The date? The same weekend she told me she was at a friend's cabin to clear her head. I took photos of everything, saved backups to a secure folder she couldn't access. Meanwhile, Serena kept texting me, trying to keep her hooks in. You deserve someone better. Don't let her get away with it. She was playing her part as the truth teller, but I wasn't stupid. I knew she was just waiting for the opening to make herself the alternative. She wasn't going to get it. I wasn't going to let either of them think they were in control of how this ended. The decision came to me one night while Nicole was upstairs on yet another work call. I was sitting in the living room, staring at the stack of printed evidence on the coffee table. Credit card charges, phone logs, hotel receipts. Her whole second life laid out in black and white. I thought about confronting her right then, slamming the papers down in front of her and watching her face when she realized she was cornered. But that would be too easy for her. She'd cry, twist the story, maybe promise to change just enough to buy herself time. No, I wanted this to hit her like a freight train she never saw coming. I called a lawyer the next morning. He was the kind of guy who didn't waste words, just asked for the facts and told me exactly how to protect myself. By the end of the meeting, we had a plan. Freeze joint accounts she might drain. Secure my assets under my name only. File for divorce with documented evidence of infidelity to minimize her payout. On the way home, I stopped by the hardware store for a new set of locks. And while I was in that mindset, I decided Serena wasn't walking away clean either. She wanted me to leave Nicole and fall into her arms? Fine. I'd make sure she got tied to Nicole's sinking ship instead. The only question now was timing. And as luck would have it, the perfect opportunity was just 2 weeks away, Nicole's birthday party. Family, friends, colleagues, everyone whose opinion mattered to her. She'd never see it coming. Nicole's birthday was always a production. She thrived on being the center of attention, and this year was no different. She'd booked a private room at an upscale Italian place downtown, invited her family, mine, Serena, and even a few of her gallery clients. Perfect. In the days leading up, I kept my act flawless. I played the doting husband, asked her about menu choices, even offered to handle the wine list for the evening. She was all smiles, probably thinking she had me right where she wanted, clueless and loyal. Meanwhile, I was putting together my gift. I had the evidence neatly organized in an envelope. Copies of hotel receipts, screenshots of texts with Evan, the Napa itinerary. On top of the stack was the photo I'd taken of her kissing him in the sedan. I printed enough copies for every table. I also made a quiet stop at the restaurant a day before the party. I handed the manager an envelope and some cash and told him exactly when to place it at each table, right after dessert, before Nicole's big thank you speech. By the time her birthday arrived, I was calm. Not angry, not anxious. Just ready. I watched her glide into the room, working it like she was on a runway, kissing cheeks and soaking up compliments. Serena was there too, wearing a smug smile that made my skin crawl. Neither of them had any idea that by the end of the night, their worlds were going to implode in front of everyone they tried so hard to impress. Dinner went exactly the way Nicole loved it. Endless chatter about her latest gallery project, compliments on her dress, little digs at me disguised as jokes. Dylan doesn't get art, but he tries. I just smiled and refilled glasses. Dessert came out, candles flickering on her triple chocolate cake. Everyone sang. She blew them out with that practiced, gracious birthday girl smile. That's when the manager made his rounds, placing the envelopes on each table just like we'd arranged. Nicole noticed first. "What's this?" she asked, picking hers up. "Birthday gift," I said. "From me. For everyone." She opened it. Her smile faltered instantly. I watched as her eyes darted from the first photo, her and Evan in the sedan, to the Napa itinerary, to the string of text messages ending with "last night was incredible." Around the room, people were flipping through their own envelopes. Murmurs started. Nicole's mother gasped. My sister Emma let out a low whistle. Even Serena looked thrown, though she was quick to lean toward Nicole and whisper something. Nicole's face flushed deep red. "You son of a..." I raised my glass. To Nicole, 3 years of marriage, a lifetime of lies, and apparently a very busy travel schedule. Someone stifled a laugh. Someone else muttered, "Wow." She shoved back her chair, practically knocking it over. "This is humiliating." "Exactly," I said. "Now you know how I've felt." She stormed out, Serena scrambling after her. The room was dead silent for a beat. Then Emma clinked her glass against mine. "Happy birthday to her," she said. Nicole didn't come home that night. I knew because I'd already changed the locks earlier that week. The next morning, my phone lit up with a string of texts. "Nicole, you've ruined my life." "Nicole, I can't believe you would do that in front of my family." "Nicole, everyone's calling me. Do you know how humiliating this is?" "Yeah, Nicole, I did. That was the point." By noon, Emma called to give me the play-by-play. Nicole had shown up at her mother's, sobbing, spinning a story about how I'd misinterpreted everything and how Serena was the only one who believed her. Except Serena wasn't looking so confident anymore. 2 days later, she texted me. "I never wanted it to go this far. Can we talk?" I didn't respond. Whatever fantasy she'd been building in her head, it was dead. Mutual friends started reaching out too, mostly to say they'd had suspicions but didn't want to get involved. Some were blunt enough to admit they'd seen Nicole with Evan in public before. That stung, realizing people had known and said nothing. Financially, I moved fast. My lawyer filed the divorce petition citing infidelity. We froze the joint accounts she'd been using like her personal slush fund. She was about to find out that community property didn't mean much when the other party had hard proof you'd been sleeping around. Socially, she was radioactive. The gallery put her on a break, citing negative publicity. Her family was divided, half furious at me for the public scene, half quietly relieved someone finally called her out. As for Serena, she'd bet on the wrong horse twice. First on Nicole's marriage surviving, then on me sticking around for her. Now she was just as alone as Nicole, and both of them knew it. The Friday after the party, Nicole showed up at the house. I saw her on the doorbell camera before she could even knock, hair in a messy bun, wearing a hoodie I didn't recognize, looking like she'd aged 10 years in a week. She tried the door. When it didn't budge, she pounded her fist against it. "Dylan, open the damn door." I stepped into view, but didn't unlock it. "You don't live here anymore, Nicole." Her eyes narrowed. "You can't just throw me out of my own house." "My house," I corrected. "Your clothes and whatever else you want will be boxed and sent to your sisters. You're not setting foot inside again." She looked like she was about to launch into some tearful plea, but instead, her face twisted into something ugly. "You're going to regret this." I smiled. "I already regret marrying you. This part feels fine." She stormed off, muttering something I couldn't hear. When the driveway was empty again, I walked back inside and just breathed. The silence was different now, clean mine. No perfume lingering in the hallway from nights she came home late. No fake smiles at dinner. That weekend, I cleared the last of her things out of the bedroom. I repainted the walls, swapped out the bedding, and moved my guitar into the corner where her vanity used to be. The place stopped feeling like our house and started feeling like my home. I'd been bracing for a fight, but honestly, I didn't care if she screamed, begged, or threatened. She was out, and I wasn't looking back. I didn't have to go looking for updates. They found me. My brother Mark called first. "You're not going to believe this," he said, half laughing. "Nicole tried showing up at Mom's art charity thing yesterday. People actually moved their chairs to get away from her." Then my lawyer emailed. Evan had quietly settled with his wife after she found out about him and Nicole. Apparently, my little envelope stunt had traveled further than the restaurant. The guy was bleeding money in the divorce, and I wouldn't be surprised if Nicole was no longer on his speed dial. Serena's fall was messier. She tried defending Nicole to mutual friends, saying I was vindictive and controlling. But word got out about her late-night texts to me, the not-so-subtle flirting. People started calling her a traitor, the friend who stabbed Nicole in the back while pretending to help. From what I heard, Serena lost her main job. Her boss didn't like the attention she was bringing. She'd been leaning on Nicole's social connections for years, and now she couldn't even get invited to the smaller events. Nicole, meanwhile, had to move into a cramped rental on the edge of downtown. No car, sold it to cover her lawyer's retainer. She posted a few starting fresh selfies on social media, but the comments were telling. Polite pity from acquaintances, dead silence from the people who used to fawn over her. It wasn't instant karma. It was slow erosion. Every week, a little more of their safety net frayed. And the best part? I didn't have to lift a finger. They were dismantling themselves. After weeks of hearing about Nicole and Serena's little implosions, I realized something. I didn't actually care anymore. Sure, it was satisfying at first, but spending my energy tracking their downfall meant they still had a seat at my table, even if it was just in my head. So I decided to evict them from there too. First thing I did was book a trip. Nothing exotic, just a cabin up north where I could fish, hike, and not see another human unless I wanted to. I hadn't done anything like that for myself in years. When I got back, I joined a local cycling group. At first it was just for exercise, but it turned into a social thing too. Thursday night rides, weekend coffee runs. Real people who actually wanted to be there, not because they needed something from me, but because we enjoyed each other's company. I also started putting more time into my guitar. That corner of the bedroom where her vanity used to be, now it's my music space. Some nights I'd play until midnight, just me and the strings, and realize I hadn't thought about Nicole once all day. My sister Emma introduced me to a friend of hers. No pressure, just a casual drink. We laughed, swapped stories, and when she asked about my situation, I gave her the short version without bitterness. She smiled and said, "Well, sounds like you came out ahead." For the first time in a long time, I felt like myself again, not Nicole's husband, not Serena's target, just Dylan. I have many other stories. Go to my channel, subscribe so you don't lose us. Give me a thumbs